Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Career Chat. I'm Krista Harmon, one of the career readiness consultants with the Kent Intermediate School District, and I'm so delighted to have Tyler Murray. He is a senior financial analyst with us today. Welcome, Tyler.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. Excited to kind of give you guys my testimony of how I got to, where I am today. So excited to be here.
That's great. Well, I know teenagers love to hear how adults got to where they are. So just take us back to high school age, Tyler. Did you think, man, I'm going to grow up to be an investment analyst, a financial analyst? Tell us that early thinking.
Well, when I was 16, I was not thinking about college. Um, if I was thinking about college, I was thinking about playing football or basketball in college. Um, I didn't really have any plans. I didn't have any goals. My mother was the only one in my family that actually attended college. Um, so outside of her, no one else in my family really attended college, or let alone graduated from college. So at 16, like I said, I wanted to be a football player.
Absolutely. So were you pretty good then in high school? So you had some aspirations?
Um, yeah, I had some aspirations. My sophomore, so I played varsity since a freshman. My junior year, I was highly recruited, but my grades weren't great. I think I was maybe a 2.5 average student at the time. So, a lot of the schools that I was being recruited by, U of M, Michigan State, Toledo, Illinois, Indiana, it was I didn't have the grades. I had the skills, but I didn't have the grades. And then also I didn't really have like the guidance, or at least I didn't take heed to the guidance. It was I had no plans whatsoever other than football.
Well, I love that too, because I think this is such a great piece of wisdom already to help, communicate to young people that are watching
Hmm.
this is that grades matter and you don't know what
Right.
your future is going to hold. So to do well, because it does matter. So your recruitment, you're being recruited, but the grades aren't great. So as you graduated then, what happened? What were your next steps then, since that maybe wasn't coming together like you'd hoped?
So when I graduated, I decided to take a couple years. Well, I wanted to still, the goal was to play football. Grand Rapids Community College had a top-notch football team, community college JUCO team, and I just why not? Let's go try out. So here's my procrastination and also a lack of guidance. I went to enroll in school and they were full. And I don't know if anyone, maybe not anyone on this call, but I don't know if this still happens today, but when I graduated college or high school in 2006, GRCC would fill up like immediately. And then, the kids that didn't have any plans of going to college, we were the last ones coming in trying to get any classes that we can take. So um, I just totally missed out on enrollment. So my first year out of high school, I just worked. I worked for FedEx and also this store. I don't know if anyone will remember this store, but MC Sports. I actually worked for the distribution warehouse. So I did that for maybe a year. Decided to get back into school. Um, I flunked out the first year. Like I literally flunked out the first year. I was on financial aid suspension. I was on academic probation. I had a lot going on in life at that time. We were in the middle of the great financial crisis, the recession that we went through in 2007 to 2009 ish. So it was hard to find a job. I was doing a lot of temp work, contract work, and then I landed this job. It was a third shift job working sanitation at a food manufacturer here in Grand Rapids, and I hated that job. One thing that's always been a constant for me is I hate micromanaging managers, and that was probably the most I've ever been micromanaged in my life. So I got fired. Um, I got fired, and then at that point though, while I was working there, I made a decision to go back to school, get everything that I needed in order. I had to write letters for financial aid to be reinstated. I had to write letters because I was on the academic probation. So I finally got back in school. So for the next 2 or 3 years, I just focused on school. And then too, I kind of missed a big thing of that part. I had a child when I was 19. He is now he will be 14 years old this year. So I had a kid early. So everything that was going on at the time with the economy and just things in my life, it just things were really, really hard. Um, but I persevered and I made sure I just, I went through it. I didn't run from anything. I just fought through it.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing, that you made a very conscious choice that you were going to go
Yes.
to school and you focused all your energies on that. Did you at this point get any guidance? Because it sounds like that was an important piece that you were missing. Did anyone at any
No.
point yet connect with you? Okay, that's good to know.
Nope. The biggest guidance, the most guidance that I was getting in life was just through my experience and other people's experience, indirectly. So when I was working the third shift job, the guy was he was really excited about how much he was being paid. And this was a top out. And I was like, no, I can't do that. Like, and that at that point is when I said I went back home and I told myself and I told my spouse at the time, I'm going back to school. And there's nothing that's going to really stop me from reaching this goal because one, I always knew I was smarter than what my circumstances were. And a lot of the reason like why I didn't go to college, why I didn't get good grades in high school was because of the decisions that I was making. No one else's fault. And it was I wanted to be cool, right? I wanted to be cool. I wanted to, um anything that caught my attention outside of school and grades caught my attention, So it was everything, again,
So you knew
everything.
you were smart, is what you were saying. You knew inside there
Yeah,
was something better for yourself, and you're seeing these people around you who have kind of limited opportunities. You're like, that's not the life I want. So that's what was
right.
propelling you. That you knew you were smart inside, knew that you were making the choices that were self-sabotaging yourself, and that you made this choice to move forward.
Yep.
So what did you choose for a major during GRCC? How did you even come to that
Um,
decision?
well, okay, so in high school, I had an accounting teacher when I was a senior, and in this class, I had friends, football team, all in this class. So you can imagine that I was not paying attention. Um, but I understood the coursework like the back of my hand, literally. And she even asked me, she said, Tyler, what are you going to major in college? And I was football, like an idiot. Um, so s- in that moment, I realized I had a gift for accounting. So when I went to GRCC, it's okay. Let me lean on what I know. Let me lean on what I know I'm good at, and that was numbers. Math has always been my favorite to a to an extent. Um, so I understood it, and that's what made me decide to, let me go into accounting. And then that changed actually when I transferred to Grand Valley. After my third year at GRCC, maybe 2.5 years at GRCC, I then transferred to Grand Valley. And then once I was in Grand Valley, I actually joined a extracurricular group called Seedman Investment Portfolio Organization. And that's when I was introduced to finance. And so I was like, no, I love this more than accounting. So I eventually just added the finance piece, continued my accounting coursework, but added the finance piece. Took a few more classes, and then I finished Grand Valley in 2012 with a double major in accounting and finance. So,
There's a couple things I want to pull out of that because I think it's so important, Tyler, what you're
mhm,
saying. First of all, you start at GRCC, which is a less expensive way to start, but all those credits transfer to a 4-year university. So heads up, young
yep,
people, great way to
yep,
save money. And that you actively joined that club, that finance club. So
yep.
you took an action step. And that's, I think I was a first generation. I didn't know about clubs and really the benefit of some of those. What was just one good thing that you remember about that club that you would want to encourage other young people to seek those kind of opportunities?
Um, the network. So it really it does enhance your network. One thing that I've learned is not what you know, and we've heard this all of our lives. We've heard this. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Um, that's half the battle there. You know, you can if is and that was the big thing for me was that I met other people that had the same interest. um and then we kind of built we built our like friendship off of that, because we were all interested in the same thing. It just kind of went the next step. So I would say the biggest beneficiary of that benefit of that was the network, and
So
also
you
the experience of, in that organization we did a lot of career, what are they,
job shadows and
not we did job shadows. We went to the uh Chicago, the Mercantile Exchange, where they trade options. We went there.
so
We
field trips, some really great field
Yeah,
trips.
we did a lot of things, and this is a black kid from the inner city of Grand Rapids. I've never seen anything like this before. So it really opened my eyes up to like the possibilities and the opportunities in finance.
I love that. I love that that was such a key piece of your story to join that club, meet other people, get those experiences, which then just opened up your opportunities.
Yeah.
So I want to jump just a minute because I do want to hear that transition from college to your first job. But before we do that, help young people understand what your job title means today. When you're a financial analyst, what does that even mean?
Well, it has a few different definitions. It's one can be a financial analyst, but you're more of an investment analyst, and you work for large banks. You work for, um, your J.P. Morgan Chases, your Bank of Americas, Merrill Lynch, Goldman Sachs. Those are financial analysts that are maybe analyzing a stock of a company or something like that. Or you could also be a financial analyst in private equity doing the same thing. Now, what I actually do, I work in corporate finance. So it's not as it's not as glorified as an investment analyst or a financial analyst that works for an investment bank. Um, but it has its benefits. Working in corporate finance, I pretty much support a few different areas within Spectrum Health. So, and then even previously, my previous work, I actually supported the entire company. So it just depends on how large the organization is, and that kind of dictates where you will kind of fall and what your duties will be. So it just depends. But there's a few, like I said, there's a few definitions of what a financial analyst is.
Well, I think it's great for young people to hear that because I think sometimes, we don't realize that there's financial analysts at a corporate level, like you said,
Yep.
versus being, so young people hear that and do some investigation so you can start to learn all the different ways you can take this. So you
Yep.
graduated with this double major, good for you. And did you get a job like right out of college? Did you get recruited? Did you have to go, pound the pavement? Because it's still not too long after the recession here. So how are things
Yeah.
at that point?
So when I graduated, so while I was in school, I was working for Chase Bank. And at this time, I wanted to continue moving up in the organization. And something just didn't sit well with me when I was working at Chase. So I wanted to leave the kind of retail front of Chase. And that kind of changed my perspective of what I actually wanted to do. So once I graduated, I actually wanted to be a personal banker. That was like the next step in the development program, I guess, if you will, at Chase. I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to work, face to face with the customer. So um, once I graduated, I applied for the personal banker position. I did not get it. Um, I actually transferred over to another bank, which was Mercantile Bank, and I was working as a personal banker there. But again, I didn't want to work the face-to-face kind of customer interaction anymore. So I started to kind of just dip my toes in other things, like still in the finance realm, but I was actually I actually got recruited by Goodwill to come over there and be a, what was that called? A, it was like a financial advisor. So we would help, financial coach is what the name of it was. So we would basically help um, individuals that may have been low income, and we will kind of help them with their finances. And that didn't last long because they lost funding for it, and so my job was cut after 2 months of working there. So then I actually started working at a local mortgage company here in town as an accounting analyst, and this is where network, you know, comes into play. And when I was working there, I developed a really good relationship with the then CFO, and we created a position out of thin air, and that kind of moved me into where I am now. He was able to show me the ropes of corporate finance, and that ever since then, that just, yeah, sorry, the CFO is the chief financial officer. um so yes, that really led me to where I am now. So
So that's the thing. People, like you say, those connections can make such a difference in the way that our trajectory of our careers go. So, and you knew that accounting was something you were good at and it felt
right.
comfortable. And so was it culture that you had to kind of like decide this is the right culture for me? Like some of those early experiences like this, you knew you didn't want to do face to face with the client again. For young people, maybe that would be something you'd like. But again, for Tyler,
Right.
you decided, so again, there's so many behind the scene jobs. Um, what are some of those other things you kind of had to wrestle with as you were making decisions about which direction to go?
Well, the big thing that I had to wrestle with was being paid accordingly. um I was significantly underpaid for some years at the mortgage company, but that was primarily due to, and again, I'm not blaming anyone, but what I got out of it was the experience. The experience was invaluable. You couldn't put a price tag on that. So I knew that my payday was coming later. I knew that if I sacrificed that at that time, it will come later in my career. And I was exactly right. I started, as I continue to move up and in my roles, the pay also adjusts accordingly. So that was the biggest, and also communication. Communication was really hard because one, I'm naturally an introvert. If I don't have to talk, I won't talk. Um, so getting comfortable around managers, directors, chief executives was something that I had to wrestle with. And it's actually something that I still deal with now. I'm a lot better, but it's something that I still can struggle with, especially if I get too much in my head about it.
Yeah, I think that's great because a lot of our schools, they're trying to work on the employability skills or soft
Hmm.
skills, life skills. And so young people, as you hear Tyler talk today, that's why your teachers want to work with you on communication, so that you can advocate for yourself, for example, around pay or have, certain meetings with certain people that might help you with your career. So that's just great that you even touched on that, Tyler. I'd love to, I know a lot of young people like to know what your favorite part of your job is and what the least favorite part of your job is. Give us kind of even a typical day if there is one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my no day of my career has been the same. Um, there's always something different. Um, especially, it seems like you're always putting out fires. But the favorite thing that I like to do is, so I love to read a financial statement. I love to put together a financial statement. I love to analyze a financial statement. I love to be able to assess how healthy a business is based on their financials. Um, so that's my favorite part of the job. My least favorite part of the job is, I guess, I don't know. That's hard. Um,
Does that mean you like so much of your job, it's hard to come up with
I
something you don't
like my
like?
job.
That's
I like my
fantastic.
job. I do. I will say I do like my job. I mean, no job is perfect, but I like my job. I would rather be doing what I am doing now than doing what I was doing before. So there's kind of this appreciation that I have for my job,
Because you've been
So
through some of the ranks and had
yeah,
to fine tune. Yeah, absolutely. I love
yeah,
the way you describe that you love financial statements because I'm a
I love it.
person who like can't even deal with balancing my checking account every month. So I just love it that there's people out there who have different skill sets, right? Um, so when you are doing your daily job, you're at a hospital setting. I think a lot of young
Mhm.
people don't think that about the ways that financial people can be in every industry. So
Yep.
what does that look like? Maybe differently than some of the jobs at a bank, for example. Help young people understand what you're doing each day.
Yeah, so well, each day, like in a corporate setting, I am doing like I field a lot of financial questions from managers, executives, directors, so on and so forth throughout the organization in the areas that I support, I should say.
Which are those?
Um,
What are those? Give us some examples.
so so I support uh human resources, marketing, and legal, risk, and compliance. That's just basically the legal and compliance department.
So helping them
Um,
all stay within their budgets, is that part
yep,
of
yep.
your role then?
So
Okay.
helping,
Mhm.
yep, making sure that they are staying in the constraints of their budgets, and if they are going above their budgets, kind of projecting about how much that they will finish the year, because everything is pretty much based on your fiscal year. It's about right now, how are we performing right now. And then there's also a lot of budgeting and projecting for future years. So um, I've only been employed with Spectrum Health for 4 months, 3 or 4 months so far. But so I'm going to kind of dip into my experience from previously. And a big piece of that corporate finance is creating a corporate budget. So the mortgage company that I worked for previously, um, the mortgage company that I worked for previously, I was in charge of compiling and establishing the full year fiscal budget. And that is trying to project where revenues are going to be next year and how much are we going to be able to control expenses in order to remain profitable and reduce, net losses or maybe even expense waste. Um, so that is, in a nutshell, that's kind of what those roles, would actually be. So
Yeah, I hope young people are, identifying some of these pieces that might resonate with them. When you look at yourself, you mentioned you were an introvert. School, you made some choices that maybe you weren't the best student at the time, although you knew you were smart. What are some characteristics of people in your industry that make a good financial analyst so we can help young people say, hey, yeah, I have that. I have
um
that.
one one that can be very analytical, um one that can communicate well, and one that is confident. I think those three things will make anyone that wants to be, whether you have a finance degree or an accounting degree or an economics degree, I think those three things will make a really great financial analyst. The confidence piece and the communication piece is something that I work on continuously. The analytical piece, it comes naturally to me. I always look at things differently and always say why, or can we do this better, or why are we actually doing that? Like, is there a better way? Um, so having those three things, so being analytical, communication skills, and being confident in yourself and your work is what makes a really good financial analyst, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that's a characteristic that some young people listening to this might say, yeah, I'm the person that asks the why. So I love that that's a quality that's very unique. Not everybody has that
Yeah,
natural thinking, right?
right.
So I love that you're talking about that already. Um, I think young people do wonder what major might be the best pick right out of high school. You double majored. Do you have any recommendations for young people to keep themselves marketable in a couple ways? Should they just pick one and go for it, knowing that there's a little wiggle room once you get out to the quote real world?
There's a lot of wiggle room when it comes to accounting, or and finance. There's a lot of wiggle room. I mean, there's many different careers that you can actually go into. But just personally, I would say that if you are going to college and you are not taking, you don't have scholarships, you don't have grants, please, please make sure that it's a major that you can actually make what you paid in college tuition. And I'll say that is because college tuition is ridiculous. The cost of it is ridiculous. For instance, when I graduated college, I graduated with $70,000 in student loan debt to get a job that only pays half of that. So keep that in mind, that when you are deciding on a major, deciding on what you want to do for a career, make sure that it supports whatever that cost is in college, because that is very, very important, because you don't want to be paying student loans back for 30 years. You
Yeah, I
just
have a
don't.
girlfriend who was a school social worker and she had like $200,000 in debt. You know,
Yeah,
that will
yeah,
never, luckily she got some loans forgiven through special programs, but yeah, you got to make sure
yep,
that how much money you're taking out is going to be able to be paid back.
yep,
So for you though, accounting and a double major worked out really well. That seems like a good recommendation for young people that kept you pretty marketable with some solid skill sets
yeah,
that you could do many
yeah,
things. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So we have about literally a minute left, Tyler. I told you that 30 minutes would go fast. So why don't
Yeah,
you
it did
finish
go really
up? You
fast.
know, students who are watching today, it's because they have an interest in maybe the finance area or, you know, accounting. What kind of wisdom would you like to give them as you finish up today?
Um, Stay the course. Stay the course, and don't worry about whatever the other people are doing. We live in a microwave society where everybody wants things right away. Um, Hard work, anything worth having comes with hard work. Um, please stay the course, and do not follow or be enticed by what others may have or what they're doing in life. Just stay the course and focus on yours.
You've been a great role model today, Tyler. Thank you so much for sharing your day with us, your afternoon with us.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure. I appreciate it.